So I'm going to be looking at pension transfers, when it might make sense to move your pension savings to a new provider. What are the potential pitfalls? So the cons, we're going to look at the pros. We're also going to look at offers that are available to people who do move their money from one pension provider to another. And we're also going to look at how long it takes and how to minimize the time that you are out of the market if you do decide to transfer your pension. So starting with the pros of transferring a pension. So there can be some significant advantages. We'll come to the downsides a bit later. So one of them will be the potentially lower cost that you might get if you do move your pension, particularly from an old provider. Some old pension providers, and we're talking about defined contribution pensions throughout this piece. Some of the older pension providers do have high charges that will eat into your pension pot. So if you are able to move your pension to a new pension, it may mean that you can enjoy lower costs, which will help your pension grow more effectively going forward. Also, there is the possibility of consolidating multiple pensions. So we're not just talking about moving one defined contribution pension to another provider. You could potentially consolidate multiple defined contribution pensions to one place, which will have the benefit of meaning that you can manage them more easily, but it also means that you can have a consistent investment process across your whole pension pot, but also minimize costs as well. It does mean that you could potentially have a wider investment choice. So if you had an old pension, had a very limited investment choice, you could move to a new provider that has a broader range of funds that might better suit your risk appetite and your financial goals. There is also the pro of the improved flexibility that some newer schemes do provide. So some old schemes might not provide you with things like access to flexi access drawdown, for example. So when you want to access your pension benefits, older pensions may not give you the full suite of options. So by moving to a new pension provider, it means that you could have access to tools and also online access to your pension as well. So you may even be able to run it via an app, for example, rather than a very old pension where you are still doing things via paper statements. And also there is now the option to access transfer offers. So pension transfer offers are a relatively new thing. We've only seen them in the last few years, and on the Money to Masses website, as you can see on screen, we provide a roundup of the very best pension transfer offers. Now some of these are occasionally exclusive to Money to the Masses, so we're going to put a link to this particular article on the Money to the Masses website, because we update it regularly as the offers change, so you can read it at your own leisure and see the latest offers. I'll scroll down them here, but typically there are offers that could give you a couple of £1,000 in cashback or even reduced charges. So of course there are cons to transferring a pension. So for example, the big one is the loss of valuable benefits. Older pensions, particularly defined benefit or final salary pensions, or those with guaranteed annuity rates, so they're sometimes called GARS as an acronym, can have extremely valuable benefits that would be lost on transfer. So these guarantees can provide a secure income for life and are rarely matched by modern defined contribution schemes. Now, fortunately, transferring a defined benefit pension worth over £30,000 legally requires you to take financial advice. And as a rule of thumb, a defined benefit scheme is best left where it is, so not transferring it across to a defined contribution scheme, and that is something that's reiterated by the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority. But assuming that we are just still talking about defined contribution pensions, then one thing to watch out for is exit fees. Now, your current provider might charge an exit fee for you to transfer your pension pot elsewhere. Now, there is something to bear in mind though, because rules have changed in recent years. So exit fees are capped at 1% of the value of your pension for those aged over 55, which will be age 57 from 2028, as they are the earliest ages at which you can access your pension. Providers are banned from increasing the exit fees on policies where the exit fee is already less than 1%, and a complete ban on charging exit fees on pensions set up on or after the 31st of March 2017 was put in place. So it is something to be mindful of. You are unlikely to come across an exit fee, but it is possible. So always check your existing pension before you do anything to see if there are any exit fees that will be applied. And interestingly, some new providers, so if you are looking to move your money elsewhere, the new provider sometimes offers a deal where they may cover some or all of those exit fees when you transfer, but it isn't typical for providers to do that. Another big disadvantage is, of course, the market movement risk. So if you transfer your money as cash across to a new provider, it means that you are out of the market while you transfer your money and before you put it back into funds or investments of your choice. And so that can take several weeks, which means that you are out of the market and the market could move against you. So it could, for example, rise sharply while you're sitting in cash. Of course, on the flip side, it could move in your favor and the market could fall while you're sitting in cash, and therefore you are better off because you haven't lost anything by the time you are able to invest your money once it's gone across to the new provider. I mean, there is an alternative. You can conduct something called an in-specie transfer where your money remains invested while the transfer takes place. But I'm going to come back to that a little later on, especially as in-specie transfers are not as prevalent as perhaps we'd like them to be. Now, how long does a pension transfer take? One of the common frustrations with pension transfers, they take time. And PensionBee, who are probably the market leading pension consolidator out there, have provided some excellent insights in a recent report into pension transfers. The report highlights the disparity in the efficiency and speed of pension transfer processes across a whole range of providers. So, for example, you have Nutmeg, which has an average switch time of just 4.8 days. Now that is less than what you would have if you were switching current accounts under the current account switching service. So Nutmeg is leading the way with 4.8 days. Aviva is close behind at 5.1 days. Others like Fidelity take 7 days, Reassure 7.1 days, and Hargreaves Lansdown, who are the biggest platform in the UK, take just 8.7 days. But then we move down the list and there's a group of providers who take typically between 10 to 20 days to make a transfer according to PensionBee's research. So that includes the likes of Legal & General at 10.2 days, Scottish Widows at 10.5 days, Prudential at 11.7 days, and then you've got Nest Pensions, so that's the main pension that a lot of people will use via auto enrollment. They take 15.6 days, and Wesleyan take 18.8 days. However, the data also highlights a call for change for some providers, those taking between 20 and 30 days on average. This is looking back at 2024. That includes Willis Towers Watson at 20.6 days, Vanguard at 22.6 days, are taking a very long time to transfer people's pensions. The People's Partnership, that takes 23.6 days, and Scottish Friendly take a staggering 26.1 days. But there are pension providers who are even worse, and these are the people that PensionBee term the worst offenders, and they take routinely over a month to make a transfer. So this includes the likes of Mercer at 34.7 days, Capita at 37.2 days, and Virgin at 41.3 days. The very slowest end of the scale, you have RPMI at 56.9 days, and some local government pension schemes are averaging 59.4 days. So the positive is that there are plenty of providers who take less than 10 days to transfer your money, but there are some that will take over 50. PensionBee concludes that the potential reasons behind some of the lengthiest delays could be overly restrictive interpretation of regulations or a simple lack of investment in customer-focused processes. I also want to point out that there are legal limits on how long a pension transfer should take, and that is 6 months. So that's the legal limit. And if your pension provider is likely to fail to meet that 6-month deadline, then they need to tell you why and give you valid reasons for the delay. So if you do make a pension transfer and it doesn't go according to plan, then of course you should make a complaint to your pension provider. And if you're unhappy with the outcome of that complaint, then ultimately you can take it to the Financial Ombudsman Service, FOS. So assuming you've weighed up the pros and cons and you're considering transferring your pension, so how do you go about it? Well, the first thing you should do is gather your pension details. So you'll need the name of your current pension provider, your policy number. A recent pension statement is the best place to find these. Then you need to choose your new provider. So you'll need to carry out some research. We have lots of reviews on the Made to Masses website where you can look at the best pensions in the UK. We'll put a link to that article in the notes of this particular video. Consider the fees, the investment options, and any transfer offers out there. Don't let the transfer offer drive your decision. If you want to move somewhere and they've got a transfer offer, then that's great, but don't let the offer be the overriding reason why you move your pension from one place to another, because the delays that occur could theoretically offset any benefit of a pension offer that you receive. Then when you've chosen your new pension provider, you need to contact them. They will have an online process or form normally to complete, and then they will contact your old pension provider on your behalf and arrange the transfer. You will inevitably have to complete some form of paperwork, which will mean you'll have to provide details of your existing pension and authorize the transfer. And then when you've done all that, you wait for the transfer to complete, and your new provider should keep you updated on the progress. A couple of important points to finish on. You should consider taking financial advice, even if it's not legally required. So if it's not a defined benefit scheme or it's not a defined contribution scheme with guaranteed benefits that you are moving, if you're unsure about any aspect of the transfer, if you have complex circumstances, or if the amounts involved are significant, it's always wise to consider speaking to a qualified financial advisor, and they can help you assess if the transfer is right for your specific situation and help you navigate the whole process. Now, we've put details in the notes below if you need help finding a suitable financial advisor that can help you. Also, beware of scams. Be extremely wary of unsolicited contact about pension transfers, promises of unusually high or guaranteed returns, or pressure to transfer quickly. Only deal with FCA regulated firms. And the final thing I want to really point out is about in-specie transfers. To mitigate the risk of being out of the market, some providers allow for what is known as an in-specie transfer. And this is where your actual investments are transferred directly without being sold. This means you remain invested in the market throughout the whole transfer process. However, in-specie transfers are not always possible. If, for example, your new provider doesn't offer the same funds, and it can sometimes take longer than cash transfers, it's worth asking if this option is available if you're concerned about moving and being out of the market. And being honest, the providers that most likely to offer in-specie transfers are the very largest pension providers that give you access to all types of investment options like unit trusts, investment trusts, ETFs, and shares. If you're using one of the robo-advisors, you're going to be moving from one portfolio to a portfolio that only that provider has, so you won't be able to have an in-specie transfer. But even with the largest providers, if you move your pension pot across, it is often likely that only a portion of it will be allowed to be moved in specie because they have the same equivalent investment on the new platform, and therefore the rest will still go across as cash and you could still be out of the market. So that's a roundup of pension transfers. It can be beneficial for you to move your pension, but it is going to be dependent on your own individual circumstances. Always seek advice if you are unsure. And in the notes of this show, we've put links to a series of articles all about pension transfers that gives you full information about the pros and cons and things you should be thinking about.